diagram as a biological model, because what's much more interesting to architects than the single figure and the single operating system is the relationship between systems. And I need a fragment of a forest. I'm working on that right now where I can do the same thing. That make sense? Because what you're looking at is the differential of the performances and the demands and the forces on each of the systems and how they relate. And that's really the architectural model. That was a kind of default. Next time I'll do the other one. Okay, I'm going to show two projects, and I held to the rules. I got to watch. Oh dear, I've used it 15 minutes. I started yet. I got a half an hour. The two projects, a smaller project and a larger project. And the smaller one is going to be a project that we just completed in New York, the Cooper Union School, and it started with an idea of publicness and the relationship of the dynamicism of movement. And I'm making a relationship between this particular image. This is actually a piece of work we did monitoring the hurricanes over the last 300 years and connected to a project we're doing in New Orleans. But I'm looking at it as a system of movement, which is going to connect to the social space. And what we were interested in doing is this is a project that has two forces. One from its use program, and it's about a social pedagogy which is expanding transparency, interaction, interconnection, challenging the balkanizing that takes place between engineering, art, and architecture, which is the center of the program for Cooper Union, and is forefronting the notion of the connective tissue as the primary kind of purpose of the building. And it was from the very beginning, as the building developed from its program inside out, it became the focus of our work. And it led to this singular vertical movement space, which had a porosity, which was about visual connection and literal transparency, and was about social space and movement and connectivity. It operates off of a single system, and which is the diagrid, and off of that are the stairs. You enter on two places, on the 5th and the 8th floor, and then move up and down. And both of them, so there's only two stops, an A and a B for the 9 floors. And the system itself all operates off of the geometry and the mathematics of the grid itself. So the stairs are all idiosyncratic, and you're looking up through that space now as you're moving from the ground to the 9th floor. And then again, as you look at it in terms of its reading as a light source. And then as you reach these two public spaces, because again, we were really interested in the intensification of the public versus the singularity of the academic spaces, et cetera. One's looking over the street, the park, the foundation building, the original Cooper Union building. And again, you're part of the exterior. You're now connected to the city. There was a great interest here in the connection of this building as part of its social structure, and the essence of the building is producing intellectual creative capital appropriate to New York and becoming part of the structure of New York, which is so much part of what gives Manhattan its dynamicism. And this element was the public space became the dynamic which energized the building itself and the facade. And what we're doing is with the second skin, which is also working environmentally, is taking out 50% of incident energy and gave us the platinum rating and all that, whole nother conversation. By the way, architecture doesn't operate under single systems today, it operates under multiple systems, so you can talk about it environmentally, you can talk about it socially, you can talk about it within constructional methods, et cetera, et cetera. And you have to be able to do that, right? It's no longer about a single idea. What the skin did is it allowed us to suppress contingency, the day-to-day stuff, and express that which we wanted to express. And the line, by the way, which a lot of people thought was just a kind of a personal gesture, is actually the marking of this interior space as it finds its way to the exterior, and something you understand spatially as you read it. on the exterior of the building. And then the second force was its location in the East Village, and this very, very kind of powerful site, and making very specific contextual references to that site. Again, the openness of the lower spaces, the reading of 8th and 7th Streets, its relationship to the heights, its lightness of its feet. Everything is doing what the foundation building is doing in reverse. Its kineticness, and it's, of course, its use for skateboarders, which was the primary interest we had. And they're immediately outlawed. And it's so funny, we've had this, every one of our urban buildings, they immediately do things to allow skateboarders. And I always thought that, I grew up in Chicago, and my first memories, it was a child of the city. And they're random, and they're absolutely wonderful. And cities are the ultimate connection and intensification of human activity, and it represents that collective aspect. And like the second project, I was going to show the housing, but I had to change that because Alan Hunter already did it. We took it on a little more structurally, and I'm interested in organizational ideas and kind of attacking more first principle. And we came up with a very different idea about the arrangement. And we're attacking, I think you mentioned it, the institutional. And we're using a Moorish model, really, and a very different hierarchical structure to solve the problem. And then I was thinking I would do Far Tower, and I've done it before. And so what I want to talk about, really, I'm going to talk about Shanghai, which is a project we're just about done with, and I have 10 minutes for. And I was going to take it as an advancement of, we did this guy a while ago, and I'm working with the same problem, and it's an urban problem, and it requires multiple systems to deal with the complexity of the problem, but I haven't got time even to touch this one, so I'll move on. I was going to talk about those systems, but what we'll talk about Shanghai, and here we are. What I'm going to show you is a series of systems which engage to make it's a campus for a pharmaceutical company, and it's about a half a kilometer long, and it basically has the constituent parts of a city. But I'm also working with this idea of an augmented landscape, which I've been playing with for over 25 years, and this in-between place of building versus ground. And I'm looking at a model now where I can talk about kind of localized pieces. And I can look at the relationship of those pieces. Let me see. Or I can talk about the global, and I can look again at the role they're playing, right? And within functional terms, within terms of specific site circumstances and various site contingencies, et cetera. And I can add to that. So we're looking at the ground piece, and it's global, right? And I can look at a mid-level piece, right? And I can make assessments of that, right? And work within a completely dynamic process of making changes more or less instantaneous, having to do with the dynamicism of the change in program. It's also interested in a particular type, and I would have said one of these that's going to take place potentially is what we've called typologies are going to move towards new inventions of morphologies, and they're going to have to do with, one of the things they'll have to do with the coverage of land is now much more important than maybe the typology as a formal construction. And so I'm looking at this and we're analyzing this. If you look at the very top of it, the building has a surface area of 13% of the site. And so this is a situation where I can build buildings and leave essentially the 87% of natural. And then out of the system, I can develop a complexity that I'm interested in, a radical heterogeneity that has to do with the appropriation of found cities and it has to do with the accommodation of very diverse programs. And the sections, what's missing here is the second phase are vertical pieces that are coming out of it that are about triple the program. And then the building as it looked about 3 months ago. And of course today, there's a seamless flow of information having to do with that begins with desires, and those desires are, and the anticipations of your project that you build in are developed three-dimensionally, and there's a seamless kind of relationship between the design thinking and construction, so we can move through this and in a way that was unimaginable. Although I have to say, 30 years ago, we were already somehow anticipating this. This was a drawing for the simplest little house I did, the 2 for 6 halves, in 1980. And again, now we can model quite complex organizations within a global context. And again, if I showed this to any of my American contractors, they would kind of flip out. There were 13,400 and some pieces just in this one building. There were 3 mistakes, and it allows us to kind of operate within very, very different terms. And I'm operating in, this is in Shanghai, and I have half my team there and half my team in either Los Angeles and New York. And here again, here's the building a couple months ago. A piece of it suspends over a lake, about 50 meters, 160 feet. What you're looking at is a result of a controlled randomness, and it deals with chance. It deals with notions of the autogenerative, and I'm working on the process more than I'm working on the thing itself. So I'm not composing this. I'm working with discretionary processes, but I'm working on the process. So if you look at the various interactions of things, they take place as these systems are interrelating and are coming from multiple directions, whether it's programmatic, structural, construction, et cetera. The whole top deck of this is landscape. This is an early kind of piece. Again, you're looking way at the back of the project, back in here through the list. This is all landscape material. Will be. And again, I'm fascinated with the potentials and the occurrences that take place through a semi-detachment, let's say, of a priori thinking, because that's really what we're talking about. It's for me, it came from Kahn, or a kind of attack on Kahn, the notion of a priori thinking. You think, your brain, you draw, right? Section plan, section elevation, it's preconceived. And this operates under exactly the opposite. A preconception, again, a piece of that deck, as it's go over, this is all going to be water. And then that other piece, the connective tissue, the path that takes you from one end to the other. Again, it has housing, a small hotel, recreation center, exhibit space, galleries, office space. It has basically just the pieces of a normal town. Part of that path as it goes over the highway, it crosses the highway into another site, and you're looking at that, and this path is going to move through many of the elements, and every one of the occurrences is unique. It never repeats itself. There's not one place in this building that there's repetition. Every interacted piece is dynamic, and the pieces themselves are dynamic, and the interactions then are dynamic at the next level. Again, part of an entry sequence of the hotel. The main conference space is hanging over the lake. It has glass floors looking over a koi pond, and it's kind of the termination, and it's going to be the connection of the next phase. Huge numbers of interstitial spaces. As you move through, you're always moving into spaces in between. A piece of the library, again, looking out of the reading room through the library, in which you